Deep in the endless black between stars where light dared not linger and time itself seemed to sleep, a broken ship floated. It was not human. Its hull curved like bone, black as dried blood and scarred with wounds that looked centuries old. No engines glowed. No comms blinked. It was dead, or so it seemed. Far away aboard the science frigate Whisper of Sol, Commander Elira Voss sat alone in the dim quiet of the bridge. Her ship was small, built for study, not war. Its mission: map the Helios Drift, a lonely stretch of space no human had ever charted. For weeks, nothing but dust and silence. Then 3 nights ago, something changed, a signal. Faint, twisted, buried under layers of cosmic noise. At first she thought it was a glitch, a ghost in the machine. But it repeated, every 17 minutes like a heartbeat from a corpse. She played it again now through her headset. A low hum, then a sharp burst of static, then a voice, not words but something close. A cry stretched thin across light years. It wasn't human, but it was alive. Protocol said ignore unknown signals. Unknown meant danger. Unknown meant possible trap. But Elira had spent her life chasing whispers in the dark. And this one, it sounded afraid. She turned in her chair. Helmsman, she said, voice calm but firm. Set course for signal origin. Full stealth mode. The crew exchanged glances. Lieutenant Wren, young and sharp-eyed, frowned. Commander, that's deep uncharted. No backup, no relay. I know, Elira said. But if something out there is screaming into the void and we're the only ones who hear it, we answer. The Whisper of Sol turned silently, its ion thrusters whispering as it slid through the dark toward the source. 2 days later, they found it. The alien wreck hung like a dead leviathan against the starless backdrop. No heat signature, no power readings, just a hulk drifting, yet the SOS still pulsed from it, stronger now, clearer. Scans show no life signs, Wren reported, fingers dancing over his console. Hull composition unknown. Organic metal hybrid. Like nothing in the database. Elira studied the image on the main screen. The ship's surface shimmered faintly, as if breathing. Prepare boarding team. Full environmental suits. Weapons locked but ready, Wren hesitated. Weapons? We're scientists, not soldiers. And curiosity killed more than cats, she replied. Better safe. 10 minutes later, Elira led the team across the void in tethered suits. The airlock on the alien vessel opened without resistance, as if expecting them. Inside, the corridors were narrow, ribbed like a throat. Walls pulsed with a soft violet light that came and went like a slow breath. No bodies. No debris. Just silence so thick it pressed against their helmets. Sensors picking up strange energy readings, said Tessa, the team's engineer, her voice tight over the comms. Low-frequency vibrations. Almost like thoughts. Elira moved forward, her boots clicking softly on the strange floor. It felt warm, alive. She reached a central chamber. In the center floated a sphere of black crystal, veined with silver light. Around it, the walls were lined with shapes. Tall, slender figures frozen in place, their limbs fused into the structure. Not statues, corpses, preserved, watchful. This isn't a ship, Tessa whispered. It's a tomb. Then the SOS stopped. The silence that followed was heavier than before. Elira's breath sounded loud in her own ears. Back to the airlock, she ordered. Now. But as they turned, the corridor behind them sealed shut with a wet, clicking sound. The violet light dimmed. From the walls, new pulses began, not sound, but feeling. A pressure in the mind. Images flickered in Elira's vision. Stars dying, worlds cracking open, voices screaming without mouths. She stumbled, gripping her helmet. Get out! All of you, run! Tessa screamed as the floor beneath her rippled. A tendril of black matter shot up, wrapping around her leg. It didn't tear. It absorbed. Her suit melted into it. Her scream cut off as her body stiffened, then slowly merged with the wall. Just like the others. Wren fired his sidearm. The plasma bolt hit the wall and vanished, swallowed without a trace. Fall back, Elira yelled, dragging him toward a side passage. They ran through twisting halls that seemed to shift behind them. Doors appeared where none had been. Ceilings lowered like jaws. The ship was awake, and it knew they were inside. Finally, they reached a chamber with a broken viewport. Through the cracked glass, they saw the Whisper of Sol. Still tethered, still waiting. But something was wrong. The frigate's lights were off. Its engines dark. And around it, the space itself looked wrong. Like ink dropped in water swirling slowly. Comms are dead, Ren panted. No response from the ship. Illyra tried her wrist unit, static. Then faintly, a new sound, not from her gear, but from inside her head. A voice cold and vast, "You heard us. Now you are heard." She froze. The SOS hadn't been a cry for help. It was bait. A trap set by something that hunted by listening. And humanity had just answered. Outside, the darkness began to move. Not ships. Not machines. Shapes without edges, drifting toward the whisper of soul like shadows given hunger. Illyra grabbed Ren's arm. "We need to get back now." But as they turned, the floor beneath them softened. The walls leaned in. The ship wasn't letting them leave. Back on the bridge of the Whisper of Sol, the remaining crew watched in horror as their sensors went blind. The alien wreck pulsed once, a deep, thunderous beat that shook space itself. Then from the void beyond, something answered. Not with sound, with presence. A pressure built in the air, thick and suffocating. Lights flickered. Consoles sparked. One crew member clutched his head and collapsed. Blood trickling from his ears. On the view screen, the stars began to wink out. Not one by one, but in waves. As if something vast was passing between them, swallowing light. And then, cutting through the dread like a blade of steel, a new signal erupted on all channels, clear, human, powerful. A single word, broadcast on every frequency. Hold. The crew stared at the screen. A massive shape dropped out of warp nearby, black as night, bristling with weapons, its hull scarred from 100 battles. Its name burned across the comms in bold white letters, Un's Iron Resolve. Illyra, still trapped inside the alien tomb, saw the warship's arrival through the cracked viewport. Relief flooded her until she saw what followed. The void around the Iron Resolve began to boil. Shapes emerged, not ships, but living holes in reality, drifting toward the human dreadnought like wolves to a wounded stag. The SOS had not just called for help, it had rung a dinner bell. And now, the hunters had come. Illyra pressed her hand against the glass, watching the Iron Resolve power up its weapons. She didn't know who commanded that ship, but whoever they were, they had just walked into a nightmare, and they hadn't flinched. Outside, the first of the shadowy forms reached the warship's hull. The battle for silence and survival had begun. The Un's Iron Resolve hung in the void like a blade drawn in the dark. Its hull scarred and patched from battles long forgotten, bristled with weapon ports that glowed a dull red. Around it, the space twisted. Shadows without shape drifted closer, silent, patient, hungry. They did not rush. They knew fear was their ally. Inside the alien wreck, Illyra Voss pressed her back against the pulsing wall, heart hammering. Ren stood beside her, breathing hard, eyes wide with terror. Through the cracked viewport, they watched as the Iron Resolve powered up its shields. A low hum vibrated through space, felt more than heard. Then a voice crackled over their emergency comms, a human voice deep and calm. "This is Captain Jarek of the Iron Resolve. If you can hear this, stay still. Do not move. Do not speak." They listened through motion. Illyra tapped her wrist unit. "This is Commander Voss of the Whisper of Sol. We're trapped inside the derelict. One of our crew. She's gone." The ship absorbed her. A pause. Then understood. "Hold position. We're coming in." "No," Illyra hissed. "You can't board. This place, it's alive, it learns. It traps." "Then we'll burn it from the outside," Jarek replied. "But first I need to know what you saw." Illyra swallowed. "Corpses in the walls, a black crystal core, and thoughts. It sent thoughts into our heads, like memories that weren't ours." Another silence, longer this time. When Jarek spoke again, his voice was quieter. "You've seen the archive." Before Illyra could ask what that meant, the Iron Resolve fired. Not at the wreck. At the void. A beam of white-hot plasma lanced out, striking nothing. And yet, one of the shadowy forms shrieked. Not with sound, but with a ripple in space itself. The darkness recoiled, writhing like a wounded animal. "They hate energy," Jarek said. "They feed on silence, on stillness. But they fear fire." The Iron Resolve unleashed another volley. The shadows scattered, melting into the folds of space. But they did not flee. They circled, waiting. On the Whisper of Sol, the remaining crew watched in stunned silence as the warship held the line. But their relief was short-lived. The frigate's systems remained dead. No power, no comms, no escape. Inside the derelict, the walls began to pulse faster. The violet light brightened, then dimmed like a warning. "They know you're here," Illyra whispered into the comm. "I know," Jarek said, "and now they know we're not hiding anymore." A boarding pod detached from the iron resolve, streaking toward the alien wreck. It docked with a soft thud. Minutes later, a figure in heavy combat armor stepped through the airlock, tall, broad-shouldered, face hidden behind a black visor. He moved like a man who had walked through hell and found it wanting. He found Illyra and Ren in the chamber near the viewport. Without a word, he scanned the room with a handheld device that beeped in short, sharp bursts. "Captain Jarek," Illyra said. He nodded, lifting his visor. His face was lined, eyes tired but sharp. A scar ran from his temple to his jaw. "You shouldn't have answered that signal." "We thought it was a distress call," Ren said, voice shaking. "It was," Jarek said grimly. "But not from the victims. From the hunters." He led them through the shifting corridors, his armor humming softly. Every few steps he placed small devices on the walls. Pulse emitters, he called them. "They disrupt the ship's neural field." "Buy us time. Who are they?" Illyra asked. "The Shadows." "The Vathari," Jarek said. "Ancient. Older than your history books. They don't conquer. They archive. When a species grows too loud, too advanced, they come. They drain their minds, trap their consciousness in crystals like the one you saw, and leave their bodies as part of the ship, a library of dead civilizations." Illyra's blood ran cold. "Tessa, she's in there now?" Jarek didn't answer. He didn't need to. They reached a larger chamber where the black crystal sphere floated, glowing brighter than before. Tendrils of silver light snaked through the air, connecting to the walls, the ceiling, the floor. "This is the heart," Jarek said. "The archive core. It's broadcasting our presence right now to the hive." "Can we destroy it?" Ren asked. "Not easily. It's shielded by the ship's biofield. But if we overload it..." He tapped his wrist. "My ship carries a gravitic charge. One blast could collapse the core's resonance." "Then do it," Illyra said. Jarek shook his head. "It's not that simple. If we blow it here, the shockwave might tear this whole sector apart. And worse, the Vathari will know exactly where we are. Not just us. All of us, all of us." Ren frowned. Jarek looked at them both. "You think the Iron Resolve is alone?" "After the Krell War, Earth Command ordered every surviving ship to go dark. Erase their signatures. Hide among dead stars. We've been silent for 30 years. Waiting. Watching. Hoping they'd forget we existed." He paused, jaw tight. "But you answered their SOS. You broke the silence. And now they're coming." As if on cue, the walls trembled. A deep groaning sound echoed through the chamber. The crystal pulsed violently, and a new image flashed in Illyra's mind. A vast, endless void filled with thousands of floating ships, each one a tomb like this one. And in the center, a black sun watching. "The hive is waking," Jarek muttered. Suddenly, the lights died. The violet glow vanished. Only the dim beams of their suits remained. "They're here," Jarek said, drawing a heavy pistol from his hip. From the corridor, a sound like tearing fabric filled the air. Then silence. Too much silence, Ren gasped. His suit lights flickered out. He clutched his head. "They're inside my head." "Don't listen," Jarek shouted, shoving him against the wall. "Focus on your breath, on your name. Anything real." But it was too late. Ren's eyes rolled back. His body stiffened. Then slowly he turned toward the crystal and began to walk. "Ren, no." Illyra lunged, but Jarek held her back. "He's gone," Jarek said, voice hollow. "The Vathari don't kill fast. They peel you apart thought by thought, until there's nothing left but a hollow shell for their archive." Tears burned in Illyra's eyes as she watched Ren reach the crystal. His hand touched it, and his body dissolved into silver mist, drawn into the core like smoke into a flame. The crystal glowed brighter, stronger. "They're using him to amplify the signal," Jarek said. "They'll call the whole swarm now. What do we do?" Illyra asked, voice breaking. Jarek looked at her, then at the core. "We make a choice. Run and hope they don't follow, or stay and burn this place to ash." Outside, the iron resolve rocked as something massive brushed against its shields. Alarms blared over Jarek's comm. "Captain," a voice said. "Female, urgent. We've got 3 void forms latched onto the hull. They're eating through the armor. Jarek exhaled. Hold them off. I'm coming, he turned to Elira. You have 2 minutes to get back to your ship. I'll plant the charge here. When it blows, it'll take the core and half this wreck with it. You'll die, she said. Maybe, he said, already moving toward the crystal. But if I don't, billions will. Elira wanted to argue. To stay. But she knew he was right. She ran. The corridors twisted around her, but the pulse emitters Jarek had placed kept the walls from closing in. She reached the airlock just as the whisper of Saul's emergency lights flickered back on, weak but alive. She tumbled into the frigate's bay, gasping. The crew rushed to her. Where's Ren? One asked. Elira couldn't speak. She just shook her head. On the bridge, the view screen showed the Iron Resolve surrounded by darkness. But then, a new light bloomed from the alien wreck. A blinding white flash that spread like fire through oil. The explosion didn't roar. It swallowed sound. The wreck cracked open, torn apart from within. The crystal core shattered, sending shards of black glass spiraling into space. The shadows shrieked, a silent scream that bent light and twisted metal. The Iron Resolve fired its engines, pulling back just as the shockwave hit, but it was too late for silence. Across the galaxy, hidden human outposts felt the tremor. Deep Space Boys recorded the energy spike. Long dormant fleets stirred in their graves of ice and rock. The Vathari had been hunting in the dark. Now humanity had lit a torch, and they would not be ignored. The explosion had torn the alien wreck apart, but it hadn't killed the silence. If anything, it made the quiet worse. The whisper of Saul drifted near the remains of the derelict, its hull still dark, its crew shaken. Elira stood on the bridge, staring at the empty space where the black crystal had once pulsed. She could still feel it, the echo of Ren's last thought, sharp and sudden like a door slamming shut in her mind. Captain Jarek's voice came through the comm, rough but steady. Get your ship moving now, Elira turned. Where to? Anywhere but here. The blast bought us minutes, not hours. The Vathari don't die, they scatter. And they remember. The Iron Resolve hung nearby, its armor scorched, one engine sputtering. Yet it held its position, scanning the void like a guard dog watching the dark. Elira gave the order. The whisper of Soul's engines hummed back to life, weak but working. As they pulled away, she watched the debris field. Among the floating shards of the wreck, something moved. Not metal, not flesh. A patch of space darker than the rest, folding in on itself. Watching. She shivered. Hours later, the two ships met at a dead asteroid belt. Cold, empty, forgotten. No signals, no life. Perfect for hiding. The whisper of Soul docked with the Iron Resolve using emergency clamps. Elira crossed the airlock alone, her boots echoing in the warship's narrow halls. Jarek waited in the command center. It was nothing like the clean, quiet bridge of her science frigate. Wires hung from the ceiling. Screens flickered with old battle logs. Maps of lost colonies covered the walls, marked with red X's. You shouldn't be here, he said without looking up. You should be running. I need to understand, Elira said. What are we up against? Jarek finally turned. His eyes were tired but sharp. The Vathari don't fight wars. They end them before they start. They find young species, ones that build radios, send signals, dream of stars, and they silence them. Not with bombs. With memory. They take everything you are and lock it in crystal. Your love, your fear, your last breath. And they keep it. Forever. He walked to a locked cabinet, opened it, and pulled out a small black shard. It glowed faintly like a dying ember. This is from a ship we found 10 years ago. Human. The Aurora Dawn. Vanished in 2187. We thought pirates took her. But this, he held it up. This is a piece of their archive. I've heard them, the crew, still screaming inside. Elira reached out, then pulled her hand back. Why keep it? Because forgetting is how they win, Jarek said. As long as we remember what they took, we're still fighting. A chime sounded. A young officer, barely older than Ren, rushed in. Captain, long-range sensors just picked up a signal. Not Vathari, human. Jarek frowned. From where? From the edge of the drift. Weak but repeating. It's the old Earth defense code. Pre-Krell. Elira's breath caught. Someone's still out there. Jarek's jaw tightened. Or it's a trap. But Elira shook her head. The Vathari don't mimic human signals. They don't need to. They listen. They wait. Jarek stared at the screen. The signal blinked, 3 short pulses, then 2 long. The old I am friend code, used only in deep cover ops. They're calling for help, Illyra whispered. Jarek slammed his fist on the console. No, we don't answer. Not again. Every time we reach out, we paint a target on every human alive. But what if it's real? Illyra pressed. What if there's a colony hiding out there, blind and alone? They might not even know the Vathari exist. Silence filled the room. Outside, the stars watched. Finally, Jarek spoke. There's a reason we went dark. Earth fell not because we were weak, but because we were loud. We sang our songs into the void and something answered. We can't make that mistake twice. Illyra looked at him. Then what's the point of surviving if we never help each other? Jarek didn't answer right away. He walked to the viewport, staring into the black. You think I don't want to help? I've lost more people than you've met. But saving one ship might doom 1,000. Before Illyra could reply, the ship shuddered. Alarms blared. Captain, the officer yelled. Multiple contacts. Emerging from warp. On the screen, 5 points of darkness bloomed. Not ships, but voids. The Vathari had returned. Faster than expected, they tracked the blast, Jarek growled. They're not just hunting us. They're hurting us. Illyra's mind raced. The signal? What if that's why they're here? What if the colony sent the SOS and the Vathari used it to draw us out? Yarek's eyes narrowed. Then someone's already dead. But Illyra shook her head. Not if we act fast. She turned to the officer. Can you trace the signal's origin? Yes, ma'am. Bearing 227 Mark 14. About 6 light hours out. Jarek stepped between her and the console. No, we burn hard for the outer rim. Lose them in the nebula. And leave them to die? Illyra said. That's not survival. That's hiding in a coffin. For a long moment they stared at each other. Then Jarek exhaled sharply. Fine, but we do it smart. No direct approach, no comms. We go dark again, full stealth. If they see us coming, it's over. He turned to his crew. Prep the Titan core for low-yield burst. And ready the sabotage team. We're not just going to rescue them. We're going to kill the beacon. What beacon? Illyra asked. The signal, Jarek said grimly. It's too clean. Too strong for a lost colony. The Vathari planted it, and if it's still broadcasting, they're using it to open a gateway. A door for the hive. Illyra felt cold. So the colony might already be part of the archive, Jarek finished. 2 hours later, a small team boarded a stealth shuttle. Illyra insisted on going. Jarek argued, then relented. You stay behind me. You see anything move, you run. Don't look back. The shuttle slipped through space like a ghost. No lights, no heat, just cold metal and colder silence. They reached the source, a small research outpost orbiting a dead moon. It looked intact, lights on, antennas turning, but no movement. No life signs, too quiet, Jarek muttered. They docked. Inside, the station was empty. Chairs overturned, screens frozen. A half-eaten meal sat on a table, long cold. Then they found the core room. In the center, floating in a containment field, was another black crystal, smaller than the one on the wreck but pulsing with the same silver veins. And wrapped around it like roots in soil were human bodies, dozens of them, faces frozen in silent screams. The signal's coming from the crystal, Illyra whispered. They're using the colonists' minds to broadcast. Jarek raised his rifle. We destroy it now. But as he stepped forward, the lights died. The crystal flared and a voice, human, broken, spoke inside their heads. Don't. Let them remember us. Illyra recognized it. It was the same voice from the first SOS. Jarek froze. That's Captain Hale from the Aurora Dawn. He's been dead for 30 years. The crystal pulsed again. Images flooded their minds, ships burning, children crying, cities falling into ash. And beneath it all, a single thought repeated like a prayer. Silence is safety. They're not just storing memories, Illyra realized. They're using them as bait. Our own dead are calling us home, to the grave. Suddenly, the walls shimmered. Shadows seeped from the vents, the floor, the ceiling. The Vathari had been waiting. Jarek grabbed Illyra's arm. Run! They sprinted through the halls, the darkness closing in behind them. One of the team members fell, yanked into the floor like quicksand. His scream lasted less than a second. They reached the shuttle just as the void forms touched the hull. Jarek fired a gravitic charge into the station's core before sealing the door. The explosion lit up the moon's surface. But as they fled, Elira looked back. The crystal was gone, but the signal was still there, fainter now, but still calling. And somewhere in the dark, the hive listened. The shuttle raced back to the Iron Resolve, its engines pushed to the edge of breaking. Behind them, the research station burned, its metal skeleton twisting in the fire. But the signal hadn't died. It had only grown quieter, like a whisper hiding in static. And that worried Elira more than any scream. When they docked, Jarek didn't wait. He stormed to the bridge, barking orders before his boots even hit the deck. Scramble all turrets. Charge the forward railguns, and wake the Titan core. The crew moved fast, faces tight with fear they wouldn't show. They'd seen what the Vathari could do. They knew silence was their only shield, and they'd just shattered it twice. Elira followed Jarek to the war room, a cramped chamber deep in the ship's belly. Maps of space covered the walls, most marked with red circles, places where human ships had vanished. One new circle glowed now, the research station. "They're not just hunting us," Jarek said, voice low. "They're building something. A gateway. And that signal is the key." Elira stared at the star charts. "But why use human voices? Why mimic our dead?" "Because we listen," Jarek said. "We always listen. A mother hears her child's voice in the wind. A soldier hears his brother's laugh in static. The Vathari know that. They don't just kill us. They use what we love to pull us in." A chime broke the silence. The young officer from before appeared in the doorway, pale. "Captain, the void forms are back. Not 5, 50. Jarek didn't flinch. "How long?" "Minutes. Maybe less." Elira stepped forward. "There's only one way to stop them. Destroy the source." Jarek looked at her. "The hive?" "No," she said. "The gateway. If the signal is the key, then the crystal core is the lock. We break it and the door stays shut." "And how do you plan to do that?" Jarek asked. "Same way we tried before," she said. "But this time we go all the way in." Jarek shook his head. "The Iron Resolve can't get close. They'll tear us apart before we fire a shot." "Then I'll take a shuttle," Elira said. "Load it with a gravitic charge. Fly it into the heart of the derelict remains. The core might be broken, but its echo is still there. I can trigger a collapse from the inside." Jarek studied her. "You'll die. Maybe," she said. "But if I don't try, we all die slower." Silence filled the room. Outside, the ship groaned as the first void forms brushed against its shields. Finally, Jarek nodded. "You'll need a pilot who knows how to fly blind." "I'll go," said a voice from the doorway. They turned. It was the young officer, Kale. Elira remembered his name now. Barely 20, eyes wide but steady. "No," Jarek said. "You stay here." "I lost my sister on the Aurora Dawn," Kale said quietly. "If her voice is in that thing, I want to be the one to silence it." Jarek held his gaze for a long moment. Then he gave a single nod. Preparations moved fast. The shuttle, Moth they called it, was small, fast, built for scouting, not suicide runs. They packed it with one gravitic charge, enough to crack a small moon. Elira suited up in a light combat rig. No weapons, no escape plan. Just a timer, a thruster pack, and a prayer. On the bridge, Jarek stood beside the main screen. The Vathari armada filled the void now, dozens of living shadows drifting like smoke through stars. They weren't attacking. They were waiting. Watching. "They know what we're doing," Jarek muttered. "Then let them watch," Elira said over the comm. The Moth launched. Space opened around her, vast and cold. Kale flew smooth, silent, hugging the debris field from the first explosion. The remains of the alien wreck still floated there. Twisted metal, shattered crystal, frozen bodies caught in the ice of vacuum. "There," Kale said, pointing to a dark patch in the center. "The signal's strongest there. Like a wound in space." Elira saw it too. Not a ship. Not a station, a hole, a tear in reality, ringed with silver light. And at its center, the black crystal, reformed, larger, pulsing like a heart. "That's the gateway," she whispered. Kale guided the Moth closer. The ship shuddered. Lights flickered. Outside, the stars began to bend. "They're pulling us in," Kale said, gripping the controls. "Hold course," Elira said. "I'll jump from here." She armed the charge, set the timer for 90 seconds, and clipped the thruster pack to her back. "Once I'm out, you run." "Don't look back," Kale nodded, jaw tight. "For my sister." "For all of us," Elira said. She cycled the airlock and stepped into the void. The moment she left the shuttle, the silence hit her like a wall. No sound, no wind, just the slow pull of the gateway tugging at her bones. She fired the thrusters, aiming for the crystal's core. As she neared, the voices began. Not one, hundreds, thousands. Human voices, alien voices, all screaming, crying, begging. She heard Ren. She heard Tessa. She even heard her own voice calling her name from years ago. "Come home," they whispered. "You're safe here." Tears froze on her cheeks. She wanted to stop, to listen, to rest, but she remembered Jarek's words. Forgetting is how they win. She pushed forward. The crystal loomed ahead, huge now, its surface swirling with trapped faces. She saw Captain Hale. She saw Kale's sister. She saw children she'd never met, their eyes wide with terror. One voice broke through the noise. Clear. Calm. Don't let them remember us. It was the same voice from the SOS, the same plea. Elira understood now. The archived weren't just victims. They were warnings. Trapped but fighting, sending messages through the only channel left. Their own stolen memories. She reached the core. With numb fingers, she planted the charge against the black surface. It stuck, humming softly. 50 seconds left. She turned to leave, but the gateway pulsed. A tendril of darkness shot out, wrapping around her leg. Cold, hungry. It didn't hurt. It just pulled, trying to draw her into the crystal, into the archive. She kicked, fired her thrusters, but the grip tightened. Her suit began to melt at the edges, just like Tessa's. 30 seconds. She reached for her sidearm, not to shoot, but to jam the barrel into the charge's manual trigger. If she couldn't escape, she'd set it off early. 20 seconds. Then light. Blinding, golden light erupted from behind her. The Iron Resolve had fired its main cannon, not at the Vathari, but at the debris field, creating a shockwave to knock her free. The tendril snapped, Elira shot backward, tumbling through space. 15 seconds. She saw the moth racing toward her, Kale's face pale behind the glass. 10 seconds. She slammed into the shuttle's hull. Kale yanked her inside just as the timer hit 0. The explosion didn't roar. It unmade. The crystal shattered into a million shards, each one screaming as it died. The gateway tore itself apart, folding inward like a dying star. The void form shrieked. A soundless wave that cracked the Iron Resolve's shields and sent the moth spinning. But the light held. For the first time, the Vathari fled. Not all. Some were caught in the collapse, swallowed by their own broken door. Others melted into the dark, retreating. On the bridge of the Iron Resolve, Jarek watched the sensors. The immediate threat was gone, but the cost was high. Half his crew was dead. His ship was crippled. And the signal. The signal was finally silent. In the med bay, Elira lay on a cot, wrapped in a thermal blanket. Kale sat beside her, silent. "We did it," she whispered. "For now," he said. She looked at him. "What do you mean?" He pointed to the comms panel. A new light blinked, faint but steady. Another signal. Far away, human. Then another. And another. Dozens across the galaxy. Hidden outposts had heard the blast. They'd felt the silence break. And now they were calling back, not with SOS, with defiance. Elira closed her eyes. They hadn't just closed a door, they'd lit a fire, and in the dark, fire spreads. The silence after the explosion was different this time. Not empty, not afraid. It hummed with something new, hope maybe, or warning. On the bridge of the Iron Resolve, Captain Jarek stood with his hands braced on the cracked console, watching the sensor screen. Dozens of signals blinked to life across the star map. Faint, scattered, but unmistakably human. Each one was a voice from the dark. A colony ship hiding in a dead system, a mining outpost buried in an asteroid belt, a lone scout vessel that had gone silent decades ago. They had all heard the blast. They had all felt the Vathari recoil. And now they were answering, not with fear, but with fire. One signal pulsed stronger than the rest. It came from the edge of known space near the ruins of Proxima Outpost. The message was short, raw, and clear. "We see you. We stand," Jarek exhaled slowly. For 30 years, humanity had hidden, whispering only to itself. Now they were shouting into the void, and the void was listening. Elira entered the bridge, her steps unsteady but her eyes sharp. She wore a patched uniform, her face still pale from the cold of space. She looked at the screen, at the web of light spreading across the galaxy. "They're not just calling," she said. "They're gathering." Jarek nodded. "The Vathari taught us one thing: silence is death. But noise is life." He turned to his crew. "Send a reply. Use the old fleet code. Tell them this. The Iron Resolve answers. Stand ready." The young officer Kale typed the message with shaking hands. As it broadcast, a ripple passed through the comms. One by one, the distant signals responded. Not with words. With engine signatures. With weapon locks. With the hum of ships powering up after decades of sleep. Humanity was waking up. But Jarek knew the cost. He walked to the viewport and stared into the black. "They'll come back," he said quietly. "Stronger, angrier. The hive doesn't forget." Elira joined him. "Then we'll be ready." "How?" he asked. "We have one broken warship and a science frigate with half its systems dead." "We have more than that," she said. "We have every human who ever chose to hide instead of run. Every pilot who kept their engines cold but their will hot. We have a fleet no one knew existed because it was never one fleet. It was 1,000 sparks waiting for a match." Jarek looked at her. For the first time, something like a smile touched his lips. "You sound like a commander." "I learned from the best," she said. Outside, the stars seemed brighter. Days passed. The Iron Resolve limped toward a hidden repair station near Neptune's dead moons, a place Jarek had used during the Krell Wars. As they traveled, more signals joined the network. A cargo hauler from Titan, a deep-range medical ship from the Kuiper Belt, even a civilian transport that had been lost during the Exodus. All of them carried weapons now. All of them carried hope. Then the Vathari returned, not with shadows this time, with a storm. It began as a flicker on the edge of sensors, a distortion in space like heat rising from desert sand. Then it grew, a wall of darkness miles wide swallowing stars as it moved. At its center pulsed a new kind of crystal, larger than a city, black as a dead sun, humming with the voices of 1,000,000 stolen minds. "The Hive Nexus," Jarek whispered. "They're not hunting anymore," Elira said. "They're declaring war." Alarms blared. The crew scrambled to stations. But Jarek didn't panic. He opened a wideband channel. "To all human vessels," he said, voice calm and strong. "This is Captain Jarek of the Iron Resolve. The enemy is here. They think we are prey. Show them we are fire." Across the void, ships answered. From the rings of Saturn, 3 stealth frigates dropped out of cloak, weapons hot. From the Oort cloud, a refitted colony ship fired its jury-rigged railgun. From the ruins of Mars, a drone swarm launched. Thousands of tiny fighters, each carrying a gravitic charge. Humanity didn't have a fleet. It had a storm of its own. The battle began not with explosions, but with silence. The Vathari moved like ghosts, trying to slip through shields to whisper into minds. But this time humans were ready. Every ship broadcast white noise, random data, old songs, children's laughter, anything to drown out the hive's call. Then came the fire. The Iron Resolve led the charge, its Titan core glowing red-hot. Jarek aimed not at the Nexus, but at the space around it. "We don't kill it," he told Elira. "We trap it." He fired the core at full yield, space tore open. Not a hole, but a cage. A bubble of twisted gravity that wrapped around the Nexus like a fist. The Vathari shrieked as their connection to the hive snapped. For the first time they were alone, and humans knew how to fight alone. Ship after ship dove into the fray. The cargo hauler rammed a void form, detonating its reactor. The medical ship launched its entire supply of cryopods, each one rigged to explode on contact. The drone swarm swarmed the Nexus, sticking to its surface like angry bees, overloading its field with raw energy. Elira piloted a fighter now, small and fast. She weaved through the chaos, planting charges on the Nexus's weak points, places where human faces still pressed against the crystal, screaming silently. One face looked like Ren. She didn't look away. She planted the charge and whispered, "Rest now." As the final blast hit, the Nexus cracked, not with a bang, but with a sigh. The black crystal shattered into dust and the voices inside stopped. The darkness retreated, not all the way. The Vathari were ancient. They would return. But for now they fled, broken, confused, afraid. On the bridge of the Iron Resolve, silence returned. But it was a different kind of quiet. The kind after a storm. The kind that means you're still alive. Jarek slumped into his chair, exhausted. Elira stood beside him, watching the stars. "They'll be back," he said. "Yes," she said. "But next time they won't find us hiding." Across the galaxy, human ships powered down their weapons, but not their engines. They formed a loose network, sharing coordinates, sharing stories, sharing strength. No central command. No single leader. Just people who had chosen to stand together. In a hidden bunker beneath Europa's ice, a child listened to the comms and heard a human voice say, "We're still here." On a drifting station near Alpha Centauri, an old engineer smiled as he reactivated a long-dead beacon. This time not to call for help, but to say, "We see you too." And in the endless dark between galaxies, something new stirred, not fear, not silence, a whisper of defiance, growing louder. Because humanity had learned the truth. The abyss doesn't just listen, it also fears. And now, it knew the name of its enemy.